Welcome to the Coach podcast, where we bring you powerful insights, expert strategies, and inspiring conversations to help you unlock your full coaching potential. Each episode highlights the unique strengths of the coaching world, featuring voices that are shaping the industry today. Some episodes are so impactful, we just have to share them again. Today, we are re-releasing one of those gems, a conversation with an expert who's taken coaching to the next level. We hope this episode sparks new ideas and helps you elevate your practice. Enjoy. I'm Brandon Miller, and you are listening to Coach. This weekly series dives deep into the world of Clifton strengths and how they impact your daily life. Hear from certified strengths coaches on the ins and outs, quirks, and characteristics of all 34 strengths and 4 domains and how they play out in real life. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to Coach, Season 2 of the Strengths Whisperer. I am here today with the Richard Sterry. Some part of me wants to say Sir Richard Sterry, but he would not allow that. And we're talking about harmony today. Richard comes to us from just outside of London, UK, and he is the founder of releasingstrengths.com. Some of you know him more by the term Cascade as the founder, originator, and savior to thousands of coaches around the world stuck in the mire of how to expedite the development of their resources. Richard had a marvelous partnership with Gallup, culminating in his product being purchased by them. And today he leads strengthsresources.com, a place where those with licensed Gallup products can put their material to support coaches who are beginning or growing their endeavor. Richard, welcome to Coach.
Brandon, thank you for inviting me, and it's an honor to be here.
I couldn't imagine a better person today to talk to us about the strength of harmony. And as is our custom, we're going to dive right in. But before we do, could you just speak a little bit more about what you're up to? I think our listeners would love to hear here's the Cascade guy. And you've spoken to so many of us the world over. You are the most internationally known person in the strengths world. So what are you up to, Richard?
Well, certainly Cascade did create quite a sort of a shockwave around the universe and people sort of connecting with it. And that really helped me to connect with lots of coaches. And then 2 years ago, Gallup acquired Cascade and is now part of Gallup Access. And so I'm then in this unique position where I'm connected with thousands of coaches, and I've got lots of connections now within Gallup. And I'm just acting as a sort of a go-between between the two, bringing everyone together, and so we can all build the strengths community with one voice.
I love that. And so one voice, thinking about the strengths community, thinking about the vision of our founder, Dr. Donald Clifton, the late entrepreneur, the late inventor, researcher, sociologist. I think so many terms we could ascribe to psychologist, his work around positive psychology, which brought us this language of strengths, 34 unique and distinct themes of strength. And here we are today talking about harmony. As we mentioned before the show, Richard and I talked about this is one of his dominant strengths. So it's one that I think he might tell us today he relies on every day. And this is one of those fun times where I'm getting to talk about one from my bottom strength. So this is one of the ones that I do not know nearly as well. And so, Richard, you're guiding us through this conversation of harmony. And so with that said, can you tell us about this strength, Richard?
Well, certainly when I first saw the theme of harmony, I wasn't quite sure what it was on my report. And I saw the words seek to avoid conflict. And that sort of grated with me because that's what I did. And I didn't like that part of me. And I found it very difficult to sort of own that theme. And it wasn't until I had a coaching session which told me about the power of harmony and what it can do that it really completely transformed my view of the theme of harmony. And so harmony, yes, it seeks to avoid conflicts, but not in a way of setting a direction, but more in a way of navigating. So my golden rule is don't let harmony decide the destination. Let other themes decide the destination of where you want to go. Let harmony decide the route on how you're going to get there. So if there's conflict straight ahead, harmony previously for me would said go the other way. Whereas now, if there's conflict straight ahead and I want to get to the other side of that conflict, how can we get around that conflict in the smoothest possible way of doing that?
Listeners, I hope that you caught some of the wisdom that Richard just gave us in terms of first wrestling with some of the terms that one may not like when they see their Clifton Strengths report. I remember seeing activator and often impatient was something that jumped right off the page. And I think I swore an expletive at, how dare you call me out like that and call out one area that I've worked my whole life to try to be more of. And now you're just telling me what I'm stuck with this. And so, Richard, as you looked at harmony and you began to appreciate it as a strength, as near flawless performance, something that you could leverage when you chose to leverage it, meaning harmony didn't drive, as you said, really well. You could decide when it was most appropriate to put harmony to work. And perhaps you could tell us a story about a time when that seems to have been an area that you knew, my harmony is coming to the fore, and this is its time to shine.
Well, one thing I've noticed with harmony, it is really sensitive to be able to detect where there are points of pain, where there are areas of friction, where things may not be as smooth as they could be. And so what I do is I tend to sort of listen out for those pieces and then see, okay, how can we make that better? How can we actually alleviate that and make it easier for everybody else? So one of the things I recognized in the coaching community was that there are quite a few coaches who've created their own products using Clifton Strengths under license with Gallup, but there's no way where you can actually find them unless you know that person or you're looking for that very specific product. And so one of the things I've done with Strengths Resources is to bring all that together, showcase all the different Clifton Strengths resources and products and materials around. So where people have written books, people have got created merchandise, that sort of thing. It's all there in one place. People can then find it.
So you alleviated the point of pain. You alleviated where there was a space or there was a gap, a place in need. In our journey together, Richard, I believe that you've had the occasion of coaching others in their strengths, and probably something that you've done whether you were being paid to or not. As you talk to so many coaches around the world during your years running Cascade. Cascade's the product, but your years, I think you were almost more known as the Cascade guy, right? The Cascade guy who has releasing strengths. But as you were leading that effort, and so I imagine you perhaps have had the ability to talk to people with a harmony strength, how to bring the best out of. And so for our listeners today who are strong in harmony, what are some things that we can tell them that might apply to many of them? Things that can help them develop this strength, grow it as something that they can rely on and have become a steady influence in their work.
Well, something I've noticed with harmony is that it can often get stopped or blocked if it can't find a practical way forward. It's a very practical theme, and it's looking for that practical step of how to go forward next. And sometimes if there's a blocker, it's very difficult to sort of identify okay, how can I get moving on this one? But sometimes it's just a matter of take the first step, see what happens, and then see where the next step is. And by just doing one step at a time, that can be a way of moving forward if you feel that your harmony theme is actually holding you back on that.
I like the practicality. I remember listening to the late, great Kurt Liesfeld talk about harmony in that way. He would say it's just so practical, so down to earth. It's a theme that likes to find the common ground. So it looks and it seeks alignment. It seeks agreement. And I think it might be true to say that when it continually finds a lack thereof, it moves to dissonance. It starts to maybe pull away. And you said that earlier in regards to avoiding conflict, but perhaps that avoidance of conflict might really be avoidance of alignment, harmony needing to pull back because it's clear we aren't there yet. We're not in that space where we have unity. So I'm gonna pull it back now to perhaps wait or find another place where that can occur. Is that something that in your own development, your own journey, you can start to sense that or feel that when you're engaging with others?
I think there are times because certainly harmony loves the sense of clarity. As in, if you're asked something, I need to know a little bit more detail sometimes. And a funny story, I was invited with some friends to go to a place one evening and they said, bring a pizza with you. Fine. Okay. Now, do I take a hot pizza, which is going to get cold on the way, or do I take one that needs putting in the oven when I get there? I just needed to know which whether it's going to be cooked or whether it's going to be ready to go in the oven. But asking that level of detail, that helped me and distilled me and sort of made it peace in my mind. But for the people I was asking it for, well, of course you bring it hot. That's what we do. I just didn't know at the time. So it needs that level of clarity and it needs something to actually know, okay, the reason why I want this clarity and the reason why I need this clarity is so that I then don't cause friction later on. Because I talked about sort of earlier, it can detect friction. Now, if I turned up for the party with an uncooked pizza, they'll say, oh, we've got to switch the oven on. We've got to go and cook it. Why isn't it ready to eat now? That's what I was trying to avoid.
I think I would have probably assumed myself. I'm trying to think when I've asked that question, and I could see where that need for clarity, that need for an understanding. With this particular strength, I think we're going to find, because it is one of the more common strengths in the world. You're going to see this one show up with you on teams, and you're going to experience members of the team. And I remember one of the very first people that I coached who was a number one harmony. And he said to me, don't mistake my kindness for weakness. He said, sometimes people assume because my nature might be less confrontive, or my nature might not be as direct or as impending or pushing. He said, they assume that somehow that, it's weakness. He said, no, but in reality, I watch, I listen, I wait, I look for the right place at the right time. And so for those of us who are working with high harmony, Richard, how do we bring the best out of them on our team, especially if we don't share that strength, perhaps?
The piece you just touched on, that the right place at the right time. Yes, there can be something that needs to happen. Absolutely get that. But we just need to find that right place and find that right time. So if you're working with someone with high harmony and there might be a good idea to go forward, feel free to ask those questions. When would be the best time to do this? Or what would be the right sort of situation to do this in? And the person with harmony would then be able to say, well, this would really fit at that point of the day, or whatever the case may be, or this would be best to do at this stage rather than that stage. And then it just gives the whole day a sense of flow and better timing, and you might get a better traction and better engagement from other people by having that better timing.
Thank you. That's good. Richard Sterry, strengthsresources.com. Richard, where's the best place for people to reach you? Is it to go to the website? Is it to look you up on LinkedIn, email you? Where can they find you today?
Yep, the website, releasingstrengths.com is a good way of doing it, or email richard@releasingstrengths.com. Just search for me on LinkedIn. I'm fairly on there quite regularly, so feel free to find me on there as well.
Excellent. And today we are talking about harmony. Richard, one of the resources that we give to our listeners if they request it is the contributions and needs list, which you are very familiar with. And when we think about the contributions of a person with harmony, I want you to listen to this list. And I'm curious if you can make ticks next to each of these as I work my way down. Perhaps share which ones really stand out. So here we go. Maintaining balance, creating common ground, peacemaker, doesn't rock the boat, conflict averse, provides a steady influence. What are some of those that really jump out, or all of them? Could you elaborate a bit on the contribution of someone with the harmony strength?
I would say balance, maintaining balance. If I hear one side of the argument, I want to hear the other side first before I can make comment on it. So if there's a news story about something, all very well, it might be sensational, but let's hear the other side first, and then we can have a discussion about it. And just putting things in context there. And I'm not sure if you mentioned about calmness amongst confusion, but that's certainly something that I tend to do a lot of. If there's a stressful situation and so on, okay, how can we pick out what's really important? Focus on those things, and then the calmness will start to appear and the confusion will start to die down.
I want to ask this question because I just added that to the list there. Calmness among confusion. I want to ask the how. So you're sensing This is clearly a space where there's confusion. What are some ways that a harmony helps to do what you just described?
Well, I think in time of uncertainty, when there's so many different variables and so many different moving parts, yes, there's a lot of moving parts, which is very sort of distracting. Have a look to see at the parts which are not moving, the ones that are static, the things that you can predict, the things that you know are going to happen, and then build on those pieces. And then as you move down that journey of building on those pieces, other things will start to fall into place. So that's one area of looking at it. Another area is thinking, okay, if there's about 3 different options, you don't know at this stage which option that's likely to be. So have a rough idea of what your options are and how you could use them. And then when you get to that situation, you know what you can do. Just do whatever you think is appropriate at that time.
Richard, when someone with harmony is in dissonance, so let's say that they're in a space where they're not happy, they're clearly something is not right, but by all appearances, one might not know, because by all appearance, it's a calm, but internal there's a storm. And so for either the person with harmony or the person working with a harmony, learning some of those tells or some of those outlets or healthy ways to not allow that buildup, if you will, of feeling that negativity that might be associated with, there is chaos here, there is confusion. It's clear that we're not respecting, we're talking over, not to each other.
Well, I would answer that with a question. And my question would be, what does silence mean? And if you're talking to someone and they're absolutely quiet about it and they're not responding, is it that they're not disagreeing? Or is it that they do disagree, but they don't want to share their disagreement because that's going to cause conflict? And it's by knowing the person, high harmony is more likely to stay quiet and not disagree on something, because in some respects, it might not be worth disagreeing. Why rock the boat if you don't have to? Just stay quiet, move on. Whereas someone else might be staying quiet because, yeah, that's fine. What's the problem?
That's good. So I didn't know we were doing therapy today, so I want to thank you for that. I just now flashed all of the conversations that I might have with someone with high harmony where a long, silent pause occurs. And I'm on the other side wondering to myself, did the call drop? Did I lose you? What just happened? And I think you just gave perhaps some of us without high harmony a wonderful question. What does silence mean? Because silence is a form of communication. If we are present together and one is quiet, it's probably intentional. And even if just for the gathering of one's thoughts and the space where one might want to give extra room to allow what has been said or what we are trying to solve to sit for a moment. And I find perhaps people with high harmony, that is a part of how that strength might express itself. Would that be accurate?
Absolutely on that. And to sort of add to what I was saying earlier, when the silence finishes, rather than say, why did you do that? Or very confrontational question, or very confrontational statement it may be, I'd perhaps ask a question. What was your thoughts when you created that? In other words, why on earth have you done it that way? Is what I'm really saying. But I'm just saying it in a nice, smooth way in terms of take me through the design process of how you got there.
Excellent. Richard, thank you so much coming to us today. ReleasingStrengths.com and StrengthsResources.com. So ReleasingStrengths.com, you can find Richard there, Richard at ReleasingStrengths.com. He said he is a frequent LinkedIn visitor. So if you're going to message him there, Richard, they can probably expect a response from you. Would that be right?
Sure.
Very good. So let's talk about needs. So harmony, like every strength, has certain needs that help it to be successful. And we have certainly uncovered several of those. So calm and respectful discussion. And I like that the word calm already has been brought out. Balance, and there's a lot you can unpack with that word. Areas of agreement, willingness to discuss rationally, and avoid escalation of conflicts. So here are some of the needs, and you can color us in on adding more or just a bit about what those needs mean and how they help someone with high harmony, whether it's you, someone you're coaching, or a member of your team who works with this strength?
The one that really stands out on that is finding areas of common ground. So that maybe I'm meeting somebody for the first time, and it may be somebody I wouldn't naturally connect with, but I would look to see, okay, what have we got in common? Is there a sort of a place we visited, which we've both been to, that we can talk about, or something like that? Is there something that we have the similar view on something, just to get that conversation going and looking for that area of common ground with that. And I think adding to that, certainly in meetings, in discussions and things, when we're trying to negotiate something or trying to bring something big together, what do we all agree on? Keep going back at the beginning of the meeting. This is what we agree on. These are our principles. This is our vision. This is our focus. This is where we're going. Then let's have the discussion around that. And very often the discussion is all about, is kept on track, and you get very few red herrings and things coming from that. But going back to the need, it's needing the time at the beginning just to set the scene, to say, this is what we agree on, and this is where we all understand the way forward to be.
Finding areas of common ground, staying in that space where we build on that. We can support each other with those areas of common ground. Richard, you've given us so many great nuggets today. The question, what does silence mean? Sensitive to points of pain, finding areas where we can create alignment or agreement, calmness among confusion. And so as a way to part with our time today, listeners, if you're here and you're hearing some things that might be very interesting to you and you'd like to receive a resource, How to Be a Great Teammate to Me is a resource that our sponsor 34 Strong has for you. If you message Brandon at 34strong.com, we'll get you in touch with how to be a great teammate to me, and it'll share with you this amazing inventory of contributions and needs. And if you connect it with the show, you're going to add to the list. As Richard demonstrated today, someone with a strength in this area can add further depth, further meaning, further interpretation. Richard, anything else about harmony that we left off the table today that might be helpful for our listeners when thinking about this strength in particular?
The biggest lesson I learned with harmony was having a coaching session about it right in my early strength days, and embracing it and using it rather than trying to reject it and push it to one side. Lean right into it, listen with it, engage it, and then other people will start engaging with you.
Brilliant. Richard, thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Brandon.
And for everyone listening, again, strengthsresources.com is where you can find an assortment of licensed products to support you in your coaching journey, whether that coaching is something you're doing external as an independent or internal to help develop a strengths-based organization. And of course, you can reach Richard at releasingstrengths.com. This has been another episode of Coach to Coach, Season 2 of The Strengths Whisperer. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to The Strengths Whisperer Coach to Coach. Please feel free to reach out to Brandon to partner with 34 Strong for collaboration opportunities to serve your employees or clients together. If you are a strengths coach, lead a strengths-based team, or are a fan of strength, we invite you to receive our complimentary resource, How to Be a Good Teammate to Me, Understanding My Contributions and Needs. Email Brandon_Miller at 34strong.com to connect, and he will gladly share this resource that will continue to unlock the power of strength.